Hi everyone, this video is going to be for Milani's new Gilded Hyperpigmented Eye and Face Palettes. There are 3 of these that Milani has just released on their website, and as the name suggests, they have powders for both the face and the eyes. So if you're interested in seeing how these swatch and perform, and what I think about the formula in a first impressions video, then this is the one for you. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel and follow Allura Beauty on Instagram. Usernames in the description box below. And if you missed the latest video, then I will make sure to link that in the upper right-hand corner for you to watch. All right, let's get looking at Milani's brand new eye and face palettes. So these palettes are available on Milani's website. Milani is also sold through Ulta, although they are not yet available through Ulta's website. My guess is that in a little while they'll probably be available through Ulta, but for now it looks like Milani is the place you'll need to go in order to purchase these. They each retail for $19.99. And I will make sure to include in the description box the link to where you can find these to purchase, as well as a link to Ebates, so that if you do shop at Milani's online site, you can get some cash back. Now, as you can see, each of the palettes contains 9 eyeshadow shades and then 2 face powders, and it looks like they are highlighters. In terms of the packaging, these are made of like heavy cardboard packaging. They have magnetic closures. The Milani name is raised on the front of the palette, and the design that's around is texturized. So it's a little bit rough to the feel, so it's not completely flat. You get a good sized mirror inside, and the layout is the 2 shimmering face shades on the left in the squared pans, and then 3 rows of 3 eyeshadows in the circular pans. The other thing that's interesting about these is that the name of the palette is on the back, or the, what do you call this in the book? The spine of the palette. On the back you do get the names, but you also get that on the inside of the palette underneath each pan, which is really nice. Let's start with the Gilded Ember Hyperpigmented Eye and Face Palette. This one is described as follows: set your vibe ablaze with this hyperpigmented eye and face palette with soft mattes, saturated metallic shimmers, deep duochromes, and luminous highlighters. The Gilded Ember palette brings the heat. This palette is inspired by the 2019 Pantone color of the year, which is Living Coral. Here is what the palette looks like up close. So these are your 2 face powders, followed by the 9 eyeshadows. As always, I swatch the eyeshadows with an eyeshadow brush over eyeshadow primer, and the face powders with an angled powder brush. Next up is the Gilded Jade palette with earth-toned neutrals and ethereal shimmers. Gilded Jade will give you an audacious vibe. Here's what this palette looks like up close. There are your face powders and your 9 eyeshadows. And last up is the Gilded Violet palette. This one is inspired by the 2018 Pantone color of the year, which was Ultra Violet. Here's this palette up close. Your 2 face powders. Unfortunately, I accidentally smudged that bottom one there. And your 9 eyeshadow shades. I'm going to do things a little differently, and I'm going to swatch all of the face powders from the palettes together first. So from the Amber palette, we're going to start with Flicker. Flicker, wow, that goes on so creamy. That is incredible. This is a gold that flashes peach. So it's a duochrome that goes back and forth between those 2 shades. Stunning formula there. And next up is Molten. And Molten is, again, applies incredibly like a creamy powder. This is a deeper coppered bronze. Not the same duochrome in there. Moving on to the Jade palette, we're first swatching Aura. Aura is a pale gold with a golden green flash. I cannot believe the way these are applying. You know, people in so many videos when I swatch with this powdered brush complain that they can't see the powder, yada, yada, yada. Well, it's because it's a realistic swatch. You know, swatches like this prove that it is not the brush, it's the formula. I just can't get over how incredible these look. And the second shade is Amber Glow. And this is a deeper, more bronzed shade. It's not as coppery as the one from the Ember palette. More of a true bronze. Moving on to the Violet palette, we start with Seeing Stars. Seems a little more chunky in the pan when it comes to the glitter. We'll see how these swatch. Seeing Stars, yeah, definitely more chunky particles in there. Still swatches pretty impressively given the sizing of the particles. This one does have kind of a duochrome to it. It's like this very pale, blinked out lavender at the base, and then it has larger chunks of shimmer that are a deeper kind of violet color. And as I'm swatching, a lot of the shimmer particles are falling off, so I have a feeling this one is going to be kind of a fallout nightmare when applied to the cheeks. I'm gonna apply one more layer to see if we can build it up. I'm gonna use a little bit more of a dabbing motion, but the problem is that you usually don't foil highlighters, and so you can dab it first, but there's not going to be any liquid to keep those particles there. And next up is It's Delicate. And It's Delicate is a very beautiful peach color. Again, not as intense as the first four that we swatched, so I'll build it up a little more. Let's pick up another layer here. Practically speaking, on the cheeks, I do not think you'll need another layer, but I just want to see how it layers up if you wanted to use it, say, for an eyeshadow, or if you did really want a crazy stripe of highlight. All right, so there are your 6 shades, 2 from each palette. Here, the first 2 being from the Ember palette. Next 2 are from the Jade palette. And the last 2 from the Violet palette. The first 4 have very consistent, creamy, shimmery, or metallic formulas. The second 2, or the ones from the last palette, have quite different formulas. Especially with this kind of more chunky formula there. But after tapping on that, that actually looks quite pretty. You would just have to really be careful, and I don't know how you would manage the fallout on this one, because it's not like you could apply it and then wipe out the fallout and then apply your foundation. You would necessarily have to be putting it over foundation. So I think you guys are going to have to figure out how to use that one if you wanted to use it as highlight. All right, let's do some finger swatches with the Ember palette, Flicker and Molten. Super, super beautiful. Definitely could use these as eyeshadows, no problem. From the Jade palette, Aura and Amber Glow. Same thing. Amazing, beautiful, incredible. And in the Violet palette, Seeing Stars and It's Delicate. Still chunky, but at least this way you are actually pressing the product into the skin, kind of melting it into there. Ooh, so beautiful. Yeah, and this way you definitely are going to get a lot less fallout. Look at how amazing these are. I am so impressed. Now, of course, the disadvantage of having this be a face and eye palette that is laid out like this is when you're using the face powders, they will bleed over into the eyeshadows. So just be aware of that. All right, moving on to eyeshadow swatches. We have Phoenix from the Ember palette. And this is a very pale, peachy shade with just a bit of a sheen. Gilded. This is a metallic gold. It's like a really rich orange, I'm sorry, yellow based gold. Third is Toasted. This is a metallic bronze. It's like a peachy bronze. Fourth is Rose Ember. And this, ooh yeah, this had a really weird texture when I was lifting it up or picking it up with the brush. Yikes. We will try swatching this with a damp brush and with the fingers. This is looks like a rose gold with rose colored glitter particles in it. Fifth is Golden Hour. And this one is a peach. Again, it has the same formula as the first shade where it's a matte, but then it has some iridescence to it too. Sixth is Pyro. And this one really is a matte, super fiery coral. No, this one also has that kind of like sheen quality to it. Seventh is Ignite. Uh-oh, this one also seems like it has the same formula as Rose Ember. Ooh, not as bad. Not as bad. Dried. Swatch with a dry brush. This is a pretty maroony, deeper rose color with gold shimmer. Eighth is Lit. And this is a pinky red with some subtle shimmer in it. And ninth is Fuego. This is a metallic deep red, like a maroon shade. Okay, so here are your 9 shades from the Ember palette. These iridescent mattes have a bit of it's a formula that seems to kind of blow away kind of easily. Then, of course, you already know my thoughts about this shade not applying with a dry brush very well. The rest of them seem to be very good and swatch really nicely. So here's a close look up at the swatches. Moving on to the Jade palette, we're first swatching Grounded, which is that taupe shade with the iridescent matte formula. Number 2 is Try Me, and this is a metallic lime, like neon lime color. Mint Julep, and this is like a minty Tiffany blue, and also seems to have that iridescent matte formula. See how a little bit crumbly it is? The Envy Of is more of a really pale metallic gold. It does have a hint of green to it. Gilded, and this is a kind of like a fool's gold. It's like a yellow, slightly orangey metallic gold. Sixth is Lagoon. And this is, ooh, sparkling glittery blue-green. So it's more like teal at the base, and it has blue glitter, shimmer. Seventh is Edible. And this is a neutral to, I would say, very slightly warm-toned matte brown. Eighth is That's Deep. Incredibly rich teal. And ninth is Jaded, which I would describe, actually I think more of like a really bright emerald. Again, a matte formula. Alright, there are your 9 shades from the Jade palette. We swatched more consistently and smoothly than with the Ember palette. I might swatch that green-blue one there with my fingers. But overall, very beautiful. And moving on to the Violet palette, starting with Your Majesty. And this is a metallic maroon or burgundy shade. Second is Very Violet. And this is a matte violet. Again, that iridescent violet formula that's a little bit crumbly or powdery. 3, Past Curfew. Super deep in a blue purple shade. Has a very subtle amount of shimmer in it. Fourth is No Angel. And this is a really metallic pinky rose shade. Fifth is Kiss Kiss. And this is a medium mauve-y kind of rose with a very subtle shimmering sheen to it. Sixth is Deep End. This has a much more gritty looking formula. And this is, wow, it applies surprisingly smoothly. Super bright, again, kind of purplish blue shade. There is purple shimmer in here. Kind of larger chunks of shimmer, but it is applying surprisingly smoothly, almost like a cream. Seventh is Heavy Petal. And this is a dusty rose shade with that iridescent matte formula. Eighth is Melodrama, which is a matte lilac, that iridescent matte formula. And ninth is Full Moon. And this is a very pale, frosty lilac. It's kind of like a frost at the base with a lilac-y flash to it. Again, has a chunkier formula. Okay, here are the last 9 shades from the third palette. This is what they look like up close. Again, we'll go back on a couple of these and use different application methods. Going back to the Ember palette, let's try Rose Ember and Ignite. Oh yeah, much better with finger application. From the Jade palette, really not necessary, but let's see what Lagoon looks like with a finger swatch. Also really, really nice. And from the Violet palette, let's do Deep End and Full Moon. Here is Deep End and Full Moon. All right, here are some finger swatches of some of those metallic shades for you. Alright, there are the new Milani eye and face palettes. I think it's pretty clear that the most impressive part in my mind of these palettes are the face powders, the highlighters. Those really stand out in quality and for the price. I mean, a lot of people would pay $20 just for one of those highlights. And in this case, you are getting 2 highlighters plus 9 eyeshadows. So I definitely think that's a steal. And I think those highlighters really carry these palettes because, truthfully speaking, the eyeshadows, while overall I think pretty good quality, ranging from decent to very good, I'm just not as impressed with them as I am with the highlighters. I think that if these were simply 9-pan eyeshadow palettes at $20, I would still say they are a good value, but it wouldn't be anything that was blowing me away. So let me know in the comment section below what you think of these new palettes. Tell me, of the 3, which one is the most eye-catching to you? I think I like the Jade palette the most. And of course, if you have any other thoughts you'd like to share. I hope this video was helpful if you were thinking about purchasing any of these. As always, thank you so much for taking the time to watch, and I'll see you in the next video.